Denise Nichols is how I go by. I'm going to tell you about an amazing experience I had recently, an out-of-body excursion that might have been linked to a near-death incident caused by laughing gas, or nitrous oxide, during a dental operation. My boyfriend's parents, who really valued his services, recommended a local dentist, so when I was 16, my parents set up an appointment with him. That day is still clearly in my recollection. The dentist's office was small and very basic, almost cramped. There was a door facing the way I was walking, and a window to my left. Standard dental decor filled the space. Nothing really noteworthy. Simply the customary clinical feel. The usual background sounds of a busy dental office were audible to me. Muffled conversations, light musical strains, and the sporadically ringing phone. As I sat back in the dentist's chair, I could feel his presence pressing against my right arm. His tummy pressed on my arm as he worked. He was a little heavy set. He gave all of his patients nitrous oxide to relieve their pain prior to receiving a Novocaine injection, which was my first experience with the drug. I'd been to the dentist a lot for regular checkups, but this appointment was for a filling, which meant numb jaws. I was never nervous during dental operations. I could fall asleep nearly immediately. As the dentist described the effects of the gas, I wondered, why not? My boyfriend had raved about the experience, saying it left you feeling pleasantly buzzed and even changed the timbre of your speech to sound funny, like Donald Duck. The dentist covered my face with the mask. When I breathed in the gas, something changed dramatically. Abruptly, I was no longer in the chair. Instead, I was looking on from above. Time appeared to have no meaning anymore. Standing close to the ceiling in a corner of the room, I looked down, feeling immobile and disengaged, more like a spectator than an active participant. My view's fuzzy edges made it difficult to distinguish between reality and illusion. I could see the scene below from this otherworldly perspective. Me on the dentist's chair, the heavy-set man leaning on my right arm, his hand stabilizing the mask over my face. It was similar to watching a muted, monochrome movie. The camera was positioned close to the ceiling corner, the door just out of reach but just barely visible. I don't know how long I observed this objectively, and I wasn't worried or in a rush. It was detached and peaceful, like when you watch TV on passive mode. Time was not fixed, as in the way that one would perceive the languid, dreamy flow of ideas. Even though the entire incident seemed to span only a split second, reality seemed exquisitely suspended throughout that time. Each instant seemed to stretch out in rich detail as the scenario came to life with astonishing clarity. I recall thinking, how cool is this? As I looked around the room below, feeling a bit like an adventurer in a foreign land. It was a unique experience that was both detached and curious at the same time. My eyes strayed across the room and the dentist as I hovered above, but then I felt someone close to me. I felt compelled to look at the sight below by this presence. I turned to look at the thing next to me, resisting at first, but it pushed me back toward the room, beckoning me to listen as a child might. The presence became more insistent, pressing me to enter the scene. I was specifically asked to take off the girl's facial mask. She appeared at ease and without danger, so I didn't see any obvious problems. Considering that I didn't even know her, I questioned why I was being asked to do anything. I was reluctant at first, but the urgency of the presence got to me. I was increasingly driven to obey its commands. The presence kept telling me to remove the mask, drawing my attention back to the girl. It was a confusing situation. The girl didn't seem to be in any pain, and I wasn't sure why I needed to step in. I was staring at another girl in the chair when it occurred to me that I should have been in the dentist's office. My uncertainty grew as I attempted to make sense of my current situation in the comfortable surroundings of the dentist office. I resisted at first, but the urge to support the girl got stronger. I felt stuck, unable to do anything more than watch. I was still being guided by the presence to concentrate on the mask as I observed the scene. I kept getting pulled back to the girl and the mask when I tried to investigate other facets of this weird environment, such as the thing next to me. I felt no fear, only a soft, guiding force that made me turn to face the image again, almost like I was under control of my eyes. I was unable to confirm my position with my senses because I was not physically looking up at the ceiling. The creature persisted until I had to concentrate on taking off the mask. My sense of adolescent rebellion and mounting aggravation notwithstanding, I made the decision to take action. I remember clearly feeling like I was inside the girl, attempting to talk her out of the face mask. It was a strange feeling, akin to a reluctant teenager grudgingly following directions. It reminded me of how annoying it was to be a teenager, to be defying authority, and still manage to finish the assignment. I feel like I'm watching and participating at the same time, and I can't quite put the bizarre things that are happening in front of me into perspective. I tried to move her right arm so I could take off the face mask as I was inside the female. It was an odd feeling, as though I were an unseen force attempting to control her every action. I couldn't quite grasp the physicality of her body, but I kept going because the presence told me to. I was resolved to help the girl because she clearly needed it. The experience changed very suddenly. I was attempting to assist the girl one moment, and then I was completely submerged in her body. This was a confusing transition. Reacquainting myself with my human identity took a while. Slowly, as if I had come back from a foreign detached state, my consciousness returned to the here and now. I didn't remember feeling like I was physically returning to my body. All I remembered was a waning need to support the girl and a return to normalcy. It was as though, for that instant, I had been influencing her behavior with my energy without actually making contact with her. I recall having to work hard to get her right arm out from under the dentist's stomach and to take off the mask. It was unsettling. I had the impression that I was inside of her, trying to move her arm, but my own arm kept straying from hers. Abruptly, I found myself back in the dentist's chair, removing the mask with my corporeal hand rather than my phantom one. It appeared as though the dentist was just starting to apply the gas, attempting to adjust the mask over my face. Giving a patient a little extra gas to calm them down before administering Novocaine was a practice that he was accustomed to. A struggle took place. I felt heavy and lethargic and bewildered, like I had been drugged. I kept trying to take off the mask, taking my time and being methodical in every action. I realized what was going on. This is not good. Never again. No more fuel. Despite the bizarre interruption, the dentist seemed unaffected and carried on with his surgery as if nothing out of the ordinary had happened. My heart did not stop, and I did not exhibit any overt symptoms of distress. I did not have any bodily crisis. I was perplexed then, as I am now, by the paradox of being cognitively outside my body while it continued to function. The girl sat in the chair seemed content. She didn't appear to be in any obvious pain or to be struggling. The dentist did not respond as though something was wrong. I held the mask in my hand, but I could hardly recall how I had gained control over it. The dentist held the mask at first, and I had to get my arm out from beneath his belly to reach it. Though I can't remember the precise sequence of events that led to it, I do remember a clear moment of battle in which my hand eventually became the dominant one beneath the dentist's hand. I felt the dentist's hand bearing down on me as he held the mask. I recall attempting to remove my hand while the mask was still in his grasp. I don't know how my hand got beneath his, how I took the mask off of him, or how he kept putting his hand on top of mine. It seemed as though there had been a series of invisible exchanges and modifications, all of which left me feeling perplexed and raising questions about the nature of that peculiar encounter. I can still clearly recall the instant I ripped the mask away, even though he attempted to put it back over my lips. We met eyes, and I answered, "I don't need this," maintaining a solid, determined look. My mere presence seemed to command him to retreat, as though a silent authority descended onto the space. The usual background noise at the dentist office, light music, ringing phones, friendly banter, became intense quiet. Unexpectedly, I had a burst of strength and a dominant presence that gave me the impression that I could control how things turned out. I had never met this dentist before, and even though I was raised to be respectful of authority, I didn't feel like I belonged there. But the dentist maintained his professionalism, and the operation went on as if nothing out of the ordinary had happened. I brushed the weird event aside right away, and filed it away. My inability to comprehend the experience and my fear of being viewed as weird prevented me from talking to anyone about it. Since I was unfamiliar with such encounters at the time, I decided to keep this strange occurrence to myself. Thinking back on the creature I saw, I'm still fascinated and inquisitive. I hoped I could have talked to him face to face or seen him. When he emerged, there was no surprise, just a comforting familiarity. Even with unrestricted eyesight, I could feel his enormous size. It felt like being near to someone who was out of sight in a pitch-black room without actually being in physical contact. Even though I couldn't see his face, I could still feel his presence. Even if my physical eyes were not able to clearly see him, it was as if my mind had charted his presence. I couldn't understand how I could be mentally seeing details while outside of my body. Because of the experience's clarity and intensity, I was positive that I was not dreaming. I wished I could have peered behind the walls, seeing the scenery fade into a creamy white beyond my line of sight. I saw the circumstance as though it were a regular aspect of my life, and I felt as though the presence of the entity was a necessary component of the encounter. I've sensed this being's presence ever since. He comes and goes, but I now think of him as a protector. When faced with difficult choices or stressful situations, he seems to provide direction. His presence inspires me to be kind, and make wise decisions, much like an invisible father. His comforting hand has been resting on my shoulder, a gentle reminder to keep things simple. The video for today is now complete. Post your ideas in the comments section below.